Howdy, everyone. This is Sharon for another conscious sharing moments. And so, for this conscious sharing moment, what we're going to talk about is why self care and pretty much how self care really saved my life. And one thing I want to say is that when it comes to self care, remember the definition of self care for me is self awareness, sitting in silence, deep rest, and action and movement, or movement and action, however you want to call it. And so, one of the reasons is like why self care? Because when you are not able to reflect, and then whatever it is that you're reflecting about or you're becoming self aware about, if you're not able to do that, and especially when things occur or as things occur, then you're not able to really make changes. And we're kind of repeating what we've always done. And then sometimes there's parts of ourselves, kind of like you may hear people call it the shadow part. It's that deep subconscious, it kind of like hides itself from ourselves. It helps protect us, but it's not really protecting us. It may make us not feel a certain way, may make us feel comfortable or not feeling uncomfortable. But what it does, it ends up hurting us because we end up attaching ourselves, aligning ourselves to people, places, and things that's not. In our best interest. And so when it comes to all of that, this is why self care needs to be intentional. This is how self care, pretty much, you could say, saved my life. It's like when I became aware. A lot of times, again, we know about like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, heart disease, those things. Yes, do those things to make yourself healthy. But then people aren't doing that. So, how are you really going to the moon and back for your family? How are you building a legacy? Because you can be making the money, making the bag, but when as you're doing that, it's really wear and tear on your mind, body, and spirit because you're too tired, too weak to enjoy it. And then your family end up having to take care of you. Then you may or may not have the financial funds and stability to pretty much, and do all of that. And so when it really comes down to it, it's about us to be able to look at ourselves and to say, hey, who am I? Did I do this? Did I do that? Because sometimes we can find ourselves in a situation, you're like, oh, how did I get here? And then sometimes we ourselves, I call those knee jerk reactions in the sense that we may react in a certain way that may not really be our true character. We see it in other people. We don't want to accept it when it comes to others, but we want others to accept it when it comes to us. We all have it. And so, pretty much what it does is when you're focused on self care, it really just means just taking a deep dive and setting yourself up for success so that you can be the greatest version that you are. Because believe me, when we don't, life has a way to say, hey, okay, you're not paying attention to yourself. So we're going to have something come into your life so that you can pay attention to. And so this is all that I have today. So thank you for listening. And so this is why self care is so important. So be intentional. Thank you for listening.